So my name is Mariya and I'm a PhD candidate at Università Cattolica in Milan. And my PhD is in criminology, which is a nice mixture of sociology, economy, biology, that tries to explain criminal behavior in society. And my research focuses on carding, from the acquisition of the credit card details or bank account details to the cashing out, and more specifically how people on the dark web learn this type of behavior. And by learning, I don't mean only the techniques of how to do this, but how they learn it socially, so the social behavior. I'm gonna go into detail into the underlying theories, sociology, behavioral science theories behind this. But maybe I want my presentation on the screen first. Okay, and maybe I have to explain why I'm actually at an ethical hackers conference. I know, I'm aware that basically you're two distinct communities, but from a criminological point of view, it's very interesting to see how some of you end up criminals and others end up black hats. Okay. Maybe some background knowledge on what is the social perspective on the hackers community. There is really a lot of literature on the topic that is trying to examine these new types of crimes that are emerging, and are trying to look at them through theories of crime that are usually applied to the crime that we have in the physical world. So one of the findings of my criminology colleagues is that one of the main motivations of hackers is actually acquiring knowledge. So there is really a huge intellectual endeavor in hackers' activities, and becoming better is actually one of the motivations to commit them. So once you start doing it, you want to become better and better and better. How they learn, some studies actually see it as a very individual effort that is more or less based on trial and error. Others emphasize the roles of forums in providing the environment for the society to ask questions and to get their answers. But there are also studies that claim that offline networks also play part in the learning process. So learning is also a way for the community to acquire kind of social status, both online and offline. So it's like an added motivation to this intellectual endeavor that I mentioned. So there has been also a lot of research trying to differentiate the different hackers, so not like the simple black and white division. I think I'll go without it. Yeah. more complex typologies of hackers have been based on usually on the motivation behind it and on the skills levels. So I wanted to show you some of these differentiations within the community. One of my favorite is, as I mentioned, based on motivation and skills. So within this criminology typology, you would see, you would see novices, which are the newbies of the internet that have this curiosity and really limited knowledge, programming skills. Then there is the group of what we call old guards, who are also, their main motivation is curiosity, but they have already acquired the necessary programming skills. From the criminal side, there are the so-called petty thieves, which are actually the criminals from the physical world, which are seeing that their crimes are moving online. So they move some of their criminal activities online, and they have low to medium level programming skills. And there are also type of political motivations and types of hackers based on these kind of okay. Sorry. Okay. Most authors have been anonymous, that there is a distinct separation within the community along the willingness of the hackers to engage in criminal activities and disregard the ethical code, and the ones that are not willing. And it has been found that it is similar to the one that you can find also in the offline domain. What I mean that basically this willingness, if you become a criminal online, there is a that you will become also in the offline setting. And the perceptions of what is morally justifiable along the two words are quite similar. Why I decided to focus on this topic is actually over the recent years, law enforcement authorities have kind of really emphasized the role of dark web markets and forums. Most of their kind of policy interventions have been driven by the fact that the most sought product on the market is illicit drugs and other pharmaceuticals. But for the majority of the police officers, this mixture of the hackers community and the people who are engaged in carding with the drugs community might actually increase also the data privacy offenses. Mainly because there are also a lot of tutorials that are available. You can buy the credit card details, and from that point forward, you really don't need a lot of skills to actually commit some kind of financial fraud. And my research is based on this social warning theory, which is which is a general theory of crime, which means that it has been used to explain why people commit various types of crimes. So it's basically working for white-collar crime and for almost everything to which it has been applied. And it consists of 4 main components. First important one is the so-called differentiation association, which is basically the process through which the criminal behavior is learned. And differential association is actually your tendency to be influenced by your most intimate groups, meaning family and friends. Over the years, these social groups kind of changed. From the very beginning, it's usually the family, then it's the friends. At a certain moment, it's teachers, then bosses, and supervisors. But the original theory, because it was basically conceptualized in 1977, did not account for media and internet. Media was kind of mentioned, but its influence is really not taken into account. And basically at 1977, almost nobody expected what will happen in terms of the development of internet communities. Apart from this differential association, the theory says that through differential association you learn the so-called definitions. This is more or less the justifications, your morality, and by justification I mean how you what's your attitude towards the crime, whether you morally justify it or not, or whether you neutralize its effects through, for example, denial of victim, denial of injury, denial of responsibility, or I can delve in more if you have more questions in this respect. The third component is the so-called imitations, which is basically adopting of deviant models. Maybe here it's actually how you, the theory positions the learning specific techniques on how to commit the crime, but it's a bit more comprehensive in the sense that apart from seeing how someone commits a crime, you also kind of adopt the model of whether he has received an award, what kind of award he has received. So you the whole model. Example with the dark web, for example, I've been going through some markets, and there are people who offer Amazon refund services, which I would say is like some kind of social engineering fraud, misusing Amazon customer service policies. And reading, I actually realized how easy it is to more or less get an iPhone or iPad for free. And of course, at a certain moment, okay, if it's that easy, maybe I can try it, you know, or at least hire the service and someone does it for me, or I can buy a tutorial and or do it myself. So even I, which I would say have never exhibited any very serious criminal deviations, was kind of tempted to this. And the fourth component of the theory is the so-called differential reinforcement. It's kind of the most important aspect of the theory, because it's one thing to commit a crime one time, but it's another to keep doing it. And this, according to the theory, more or less depends on the cost-benefit analysis of the rewards that you get and the punishment. The punishment, of course, can be detection by the police and subsequent conviction, but it is also the attitude of your friends, your family, so of your environment towards what you have done. And the rewards, of course, in most of the cases, they take the financial form, or it could be some kind of psychological enjoyment of what you have done. So my research basically examines all these aspects with regard to carding and with regard to the online environment. What I'm trying, or actually my main hypothesis, is that with these types of crimes, it's the online community and the online rewards and punishments that are influencing the behavior and are making the criminal commitment, the crime perpetration more probable than the influence of family and friends, as is the original idea of the theory. I'm actually in the phase of data collection, so I wouldn't be able to show you the whole spectrum of the results at this stage. But I think you can at least give me some feedback on whether my preliminary findings are some kind of make sense. So from a methodological point of view, I don't know to what extent that is of interest to you. It actually, as I mentioned, I'm going through some dark web market forums, and I'm also like examining them qualitative, but a quantitative perspective, which one of the main points of the quantitative perspective is to see which are the most active users on the dark web, and to kind of see their knowledge exchange behaviors, what percentage of them is providing information and what percentage is asking for such information, and how this evolves over the course of 1 year and a half. So mainly whether the ones that were asking for a lot of information at the beginning are starting to share towards the end. And I have a survey which is more or less trying to, how we call it, test the criminological theory. And the survey is more or less based on some of the findings of the content analysis. So I decided to present to you the justifications that I found and the main rewards and punishments. So the main justifications mentioned by the people on the online forums was the first one, okay, if you don't want to be hurt, you should have better security. It's a kind of denial of responsibility. Of course, in terms of the credit card fraud, the majority of people consider that, after all, what what they have stolen is covered by the banks, because in most of the cases the person just declares that he has not made this transaction, and it is the bank that covers the costs. And to this, I would say that is very connected to the fact that, according to a lot of people, the dark webs allows them to kind of counter the status quo created by financial institutions and governments. Kind of mixture also with the drug market. I kind of find it interesting. It might be a topic also for another type of research. But when the two communities interact, I would say that one of them criticizes the other, while and vice versa. So there are a lot of comparisons of carding to other types of crimes, and saying that, okay, like basically there is no real victim, there is no violence, so it's not that serious. And the last justification refers to this Amazon refund schemes and other abuse of merchants' customer policies. In terms of rewards and punishments, so I would say that apart from what I mentioned with law enforcement, which is not always whether you have been sentenced, but also the feeling that you've been monitored by the law enforcement on these markets, which of course, considering what has happened to the major ones, it's quite probable, and the majority of them have been taken down through infiltration of law enforcement, usually in the management of the market. And the last operation with the takedown of Alphabet and Hausa was quite interesting from a policy perspective, because they actually didn't take down Hansa right away. They took they first they kept the servers online for a moment and used the opportunity to monitor the biggest drugs vendors. So after that, they actually also managed to get a lot of the drugs vendors on Hansa market. So apart from that, you have various kind of scams. There is also the phishing. You can acquire a low quality product which might refer to drugs, but also refers to some tutorial or to a credit card data or something similar. You can get basically your money stolen is usually through a phishing attack. What usually affects negative vendors is getting bad reputation for basically no reason. So sometimes customers, in order to get a refund, lie that they don't have, they haven't received the product, or the product has been of bad quality, and at the same time, the awards, of course, you can make, I would say, in some cases, really easily a substantial financial profit. The majority of frauds also do not require a lot of investment, so the return of investment can be quite good. And you can, in practical terms, you can also be guaranteed the success of your transaction by the structure of the dark web market. So the survey I have, it's actually already posted. And I've been posting it. Well, I tried on the dark web. on Dread, the Hub, Berlusconi Market, and some carding related forums. I would say that on the dark web, it hasn't been very successful, although I actually received some valuable feedbacks, and I found it a bit easier on Reddit, although they really kind of screwed me by taking Reddit banning the biggest dark market discussion. But more or less it has been working with the other ones. So I think this is it. If you have any questions, or if you want to help me survey by distributing it among platforms that I don't know, you can approach me. Thank you.